Last month, I joined a research team at an underwater lab studying the Mariana Trench. I was excited. The ocean holds mysteries we barely understand, but the deep-sea pods felt isolating. Still, I pushed my worries aside. One night during my shift, I heard something strange. The radio crackled with static. I caught bits of words but couldn't make them out. It was an emergency frequency. Panic tinged the sounds. I rushed to my team, but they shrugged it off. Just old equipment, someone said. A knot formed in my stomach, but I pushed the worry down. Perhaps it was nothing. In the following days, things felt off. The pressure gauges showed strange readings. While monitoring the tanks, I heard whispers. They were soft, like someone trying to talk. I looked around. It was just me and the water. A shiver ran down my spine. Maybe I was just tired. Shadows flickered outside the glass walls. I figured it was just fatigue. But every time a shadow passed, my heart raced. I tried to stay focused, but a sense of dread settled in. My colleague Tom said he saw a creature lurking in the depths. I wanted to laugh it off. We were thousands of feet underwater. Nothing could survive down there that we didn't know about. I told myself it was stress talking, but doubt crept in. By the end of the week, the equipment malfunctioned constantly. The lights flickered. My hands shook as I moved through the lab. I leaned close to the glass walls, staring into the blackness outside. I wanted to see something, anything to prove I wasn't losing my mind. But all I felt was cold. On my last night, I found myself alone. The machines hummed louder than ever. I crossed my arms, feeling a chill run through me. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed through the corridors. It sounded alive. I picked up the radio, hoping for something besides static. I thought I heard my name, but maybe I was just imagining things. Then I saw it. A shape outside the window. I pressed my hands against the glass, leaning closer. I should have felt fear, but I was drawn to it. It seemed to watch me in return. My heart thumped in my chest. I tried to call for help, but no sound came out. I felt trapped. Then it spoke. "Why did you wake me?" My breath caught. I could barely react. I turned around, feeling the water pressing in from all sides. No one was there. Just darkness. What had we disturbed in the depths? Would it let me leave? Those questions haunted me. The darkness outside felt alive, watching, waiting. I could almost hear the whispers again, calling me to join them. I wasn't sure if I'd get out of there alive. But I knew one thing for certain. The ocean kept secrets, and some were best left undisturbed. I woke the next morning with a cold sweat, the echo of that voice still ringing in my ears. I couldn't shake the sense of dread, as if the shadows had seeped into my mind overnight. I fumbled through breakfast, my hands unsteady as I tried to eat. The other team members were gathered, but they seemed oblivious to the shift in atmosphere. Their jokes and laughter felt distant. That was when I noticed something odd. The monitoring system flickered on the wall, displaying readings that made no sense. The pressure was increasing in one of the tanks. I called over to Tom, but he waved me off, absorbed in a report. I took a deep breath, and despite my growing confusion, I decided to investigate alone. As I reached the tank, the water rippled as if responding to my presence. The plaques on the wall described the creatures we were studying, but that morning, I glanced closer. One entry wasn't filled out. It simply read, "Unknown." My pulse quickened. Was this a mistake, or was something lurking beneath? Compelled by a strange mix of fear and curiosity, I peered inside. My reflection wavered against the glass, and for a moment, I thought I saw movement in the depths. The shadows pulsed again, and I stepped back, unable to shake the feeling that I was being watched. The whispers began again, creeping around the edges of my consciousness. "Join us," they seemed to say. Just then, the lights in the lab flickered one last time. Without warning, everything went dark. I was plunged into an abyss, my heart racing as I fumbled for the emergency radio. I turned it on, but static blasted in my ear. Frantic, I tried to call for help, but my voice felt small in the emptiness. Then, I heard it. The deep rumble returned, louder this time, shaking the very walls of the pod. I gripped the counter for support, feeling the vibrations travel through my body. The source of the sound felt close, almost as if it was right outside. Panic laced through me. I wasn't sure what I was dealing with anymore, a creature, some dark force, or just my mind unraveling under pressure. Every instinct told me to flee, yet the curiosity tugged at me. I couldn't just leave without understanding what was happening. If responding to my thoughts, a small light flickered back to life on the console. I turned. There, on the screen, was a blurry video feed from one of the cameras outside. My breath hitched in my throat. That shape was there again, larger this time, moving in a slow, calculated manner. It was rising to the surface of the abyss, closer to the pod. I stumbled back, the realization dawning on me. We had awoken something down there, and it wasn't finished with us yet. I needed to warn my team, but would they even believe me? I started towards the door, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Just as I reached the handle, a chilling realization gripped me. What if that entity was looking for me? What if it wanted more than just to watch? The door creaked open, revealing total darkness. I hesitated, heart pounding in my chest. I knew I had to go out there, but deep down, I wasn't ready to face what awaited me. I had disturbed the depths, and now I would have to confront the horror head-on. As I stepped into the darkness, the chill wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I fumbled for the flashlight clipped to my belt, finding it with shaking hands. The beam cut through the blackness, illuminating the cold metal walls. Each footstep echoed as I moved cautiously into the hallway, the sound amplifying my anxiety. I thought about calling for Tom or the others, but the words stuck in my throat. What would I even say? I think we disturbed something in the tank, and it's trying to talk to me? I pushed the thought away. I had to focus on finding that shape. It was out there, and I couldn't shake the idea that it was aware of me. Moving forward, I reached the control room. The door was ajar, swinging slightly on its hinges. I crept inside, nerves tight. The monitors flickered, their feeds still showing the outside calm, dark waters, but something felt off. As I glanced closer, I noticed one of the feeds was corrupted, static flickering across the screen. My heart sank. This wasn't normal. That's when I saw it, a shadow darting just beneath the surface of the tank. I leaned closer, my breath catching in my throat as I struggled to make sense of what I was witnessing. It was larger than I expected, its shape stretching and twisting as if testing the confines of its watery prison. I knew I should back away, but curiosity held me in place. What could it be? Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from behind me. I whipped around, aiming the flashlight toward the noise. The door slammed shut, plunging me back into darkness. Panic surged again. I was trapped. "Tom," I shouted, my voice trembling. No response, just an eerie silence. Then I felt a rush of cold water flowing through the room, swirling around my legs. My chest tightened. The tank's pressure gauge suddenly flickered on my console, and I realized it was fluctuating wildly. The warning alarms started blaring, red lights flashing in chaotic bursts. I turned back toward the tank, dread creeping in. Then, with a deafening roar, the water level surged. It felt as if the entire lab groaned in response. I barely had time to register what was happening when the glass of the tank bulged outward, distorting the shape inside. I staggered back, fumbling to regain my balance. That's when I heard the whispers again, drowning out the alarms. "You're ours," they echoed, a chorus of chilling voices seeping into my mind. My heart raced. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. I needed to act. Rushing to a nearby emergency panel, I grabbed the emergency radio system. I had to warn the others something was coming for us, and I could feel it in the air. My finger hovered over the transmission button just as I heard another loud rumble, far louder this time. The walls shook violently, and I braced myself for what might happen next. Before I could press the button, the lights went out again. A shadow poured through the glass, casting a menacing silhouette across the walls. I was no longer alone. Something had broken free, and it was hungry. I took another step back, trying to think fast. I had two choices: flee back into the dark hallway, or confront whatever lurked in front of me. Adrenaline raced through me, telling me to fight. But in my gut, I felt a primal urge to escape. I had to make a choice, and I had to make it now. I made my choice. The instinct to flee won out, and I turned on my heel, darting toward the hallway. As I ran, the cold water still swirled around my legs, pulling at me as if trying to keep me trapped. Each step felt like a battle against an unseen force. The screams of the alarms faded behind me, replaced by the haunting whispers that echoed in the back of my mind. I burst out of the control room and into the corridor. The faint light from my flashlight barely illuminated the metal walls, but I pushed forward, desperate to escape. My heart beat fiercely in my chest as I rounded a corner, praying I wouldn't run into whatever had escaped the tank. Then everything went quiet. The alarms, the water, the whispers, they all disappeared. The silence was as unnerving as the chaos that had just enveloped me. I slowed down, scanning the area, and listened intently for any sign of life. Nothing. My breath echoed in my ears. Just as I thought I might have a moment to think, I caught sight of a figure at the end of the hallway. My pulse quickened. It was shrouded in darkness, but I could make out its outline, tall and unnaturally warped. It stood motionless, backlit by the emergency lights that flickered sporadically behind it. "Tom," I called out, my voice trembling. I needed clarity, but dread filled me. This didn't look like Tom. It was too elongated. My instincts screamed at me to run, but curiosity momentarily rooted me to the spot. The figure moved slowly, its limbs stretching unnaturally. A chill raced down my spine. I refocused on my escape, forcing myself to step back, steadying my breath. I needed to reach the nearest exit, but my mind raced. How had that thing gotten here? What had we done? Then it turned. I was frozen, locked in place. The creature's face came into view, and my blood ran cold. It bore eyes deep and hollow, an expression that seemed to hold a mix of hunger and malice. I staggered back, but bumped into something solid, a metal cabinet. I bit back a yelp and turned to look. It was just a cabinet, but the things inside clattered, rattling ominously. I could feel the tension in the air thickening. That's when I heard it again, clear as day. The faint whispers returned, louder now, swirling in my mind. "You cannot escape." Their combined voices echoed in my skull, intensifying my panic. I had to act before it closed in on me. I dashed past the creature, adrenaline propelling me forward. My pulse thundered in my ears as I navigated through the dimly lit corridor, searching for anything that could help. I spotted a maintenance door a few feet away, its handle promising potential safety. I lunged for it just as the creature let out a guttural growl behind me, a warning that crystallized my fear. It was right on my heels. I gripped the handle and yanked the door open, not bothering to check what lay beyond. I slipped inside and slammed it shut, my heart racing. Panting heavily, I leaned against the door. The room was dark and cramped, filled with shadows and the sounds of dripping water. All I could think about was how close I'd come to it. Glancing around, I noticed tools scattered about, but I had no time to waste. I needed to regroup and find a way back to the team. Then I heard a soft scratching sound at the door, followed by a low growl. The whispers faded, but dread filled the air. I wasn't safe yet, not by a long shot. A chill crept down my spine as I realized this might just be the beginning of the horrors that awaited me. The scratching noise intensified, sending a jolt of fear through me. I pressed my back against the door, wishing for it to magically disappear. It felt like a game of hide and seek, but this time, the stakes were terrifyingly high. I glanced around the small maintenance room in a desperate attempt to find something, anything, I could use to defend myself. My flashlight beam danced over the cluttered shelves, illuminating wrenches, duct tape, and other tools that seemed mundane in a situation like this. None of it felt reassuring. I was alone, and my mind raced with thoughts of the creature lurking just beyond the door. Then I heard a loud thud. The creature had slammed into the door, and the impact reverberated through the metal frame. I flinched, adrenaline pumping through my veins again. It was testing my sanctuary, and the thought that this flimsy door wouldn't hold for long sent a fresh wave of panic crashing over me. That I noticed a crowbar on a shelf. Without thinking, I lunged for it, gripping the cold metal in my hands. It felt sturdy, yet I doubted it would be enough. My heart pounded as I shuffled backward, keeping my eyes trained on the door. The scratching resumed, accompanied by a series of low growls, each one more menacing than the last. I knew I couldn't remain here much longer. I needed a plan. Suddenly, I spotted a ventilation shaft above me. It was small but wide enough to crawl through if I could reach it. I grimaced at the thought of climbing into a cramped space, but the alternative was far worse. I began stacking some of the tools beneath the vent, my breath hitching as the scratching grew louder. The door trembled from another impact, and I knew I was running out of time. With a boost from the stack of tools, I managed to grab the edges of the vent. I hoisted myself up, feeling a rush of cold air against my skin. As I squeezed through, I heard the door crash open behind me. My heart dropped when I churned in the cramped shaft. It was dark and confined, and I struggled to push myself forward. The sound of the creature echoed through the room behind me, guttural and filled with rage. I was not just escaping, I was fleeing for my life. Then I heard footsteps below me, heavy and deliberate. I pressed my back against the cool metal of the vent. My chest tightened. I could almost predict the creature would trace my path through the lab. I peered through the grate, peeking into the control room I had just fled. It stood there, scanning the area, the creature's hunched form illuminated by the terminal lights. I couldn't help but think of how it had seemed so much like a twisted version of Tom. My previous anxieties hadn't prepared me for its true horror. I clutched the crowbar tightly, ready for anything. But when I saw a glimmer of metal on the ground just outside the room. My heart raced. It was Tom's badge, the one I last saw him wearing. How had it ended up there? It felt like a clue, a desperate thread that might connect me back to him, or worse. Before I could fully process it, I heard a low growl followed by the sound of something scraping against the wall beneath me. The creature was searching, and it was close. My escape only led me to a different kind of danger. Trembling, I prepared to move, but stopped. Someone was coming from the other side of the control room. I heard footsteps, accompanied by voices. Were they with the creature? I waited, not knowing whether to hope or fear. The footsteps grew louder, echoing against the cold, sterile walls of the control room. I held my breath, straining to catch a fragment of the conversation. The voices were muffled, but I could make out a few urgent phrases: containment breach and evacuate. Panic surged inside me. Were they talking about the creature? I shifted slightly to get a better angle through the vent grate. Below, two figures emerged, clad in lab coats and looking frantic. They were too engrossed in their discussion to notice the danger lurking nearby. One of them gestured toward Tom's badge on the floor, and my heart sank. They had to know what was happening. As they moved around the room, I glanced back at the opening where I had entered. The scraping noise had resumed, sharper and more desperate now. My escape route was becoming increasingly precarious. If I stayed here too long, I risked giving away my position. The figures continued to argue. "We have to seal off the entire sector," one shouted. "If the creature makes it to the upper levels, it's not just us who are in danger. The entire facility." Could a piercing growl cut through their urgency, freezing them in place. My heart raced again, but this time with a flicker of hope. Maybe they would be distracted long enough for me to slip away. I needed to act quickly. I pushed myself back into the vent, the metallic surface scraping against my clothes as I maneuvered awkwardly. I wanted to get out, but it was difficult to assess the path ahead in the darkness. I inched forward slowly, acutely aware of the growls growing closer. Just as I turned a corner in the duct, I heard the heavy thud of something entering the room below. I froze, my body tensing with fear. Had the creature found the two scientists? I clutched the crowbar, the only weapon I had, and braced myself in case I needed to fight for my life. Then I heard a scream, followed by the sickening sound of splintering wood and furniture being tossed aside. I flinched at the thought of what that creature was capable of. The growling grew louder, and so did the chaos beneath me. I squeezed myself deeper into the vent, praying it would hold my weight. The voices had become a cacophony of terror. One of the scientists shouted something I couldn't quite make out. Then there was silence. A cold sweat dripped down my back. Had the creature caught them? Or had they managed to escape? I couldn't linger here any longer. I needed to find an exit. I pushed forward again, gasping as I felt the air cool even more. Then, unexpectedly, I hit a wall. A dead end? Panic frosted my veins, and I turned to head back when I heard a low scraping right behind me. My stomach dropped. The creature was too close. I needed to find a way out, and fast. In this moment of dread, I remembered another exit I had seen earlier. I retraced my steps, heart racing, determined to escape before it was too late. But as I turned the corner to where I thought I'd find freedom, the sound of claws against metal echoed ominously behind me. I wasn't just running from the creature anymore. I was running out of time. I scrambled back through the vent, each motion feeling like a futile effort against the weight of my own fear. I had to go faster. The last thing I wanted was to be caught in this metal tomb with the creature right on my tail. My mind raced through my options, but I could barely focus. The only clear thought was survival. As I made my way back, a sudden roar erupted beneath me, a sound so primal it sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't just a growl. It was the sound of something completely unrestrained. My grip tightened on the crowbar as I pressed onward, the metal vent heating from my frantic movements. I reached the intersection where I thought the alternate exit awaited, but the shadows felt heavier. My heart thudded loudly in my chest, drowning out the other noises. I had to move. I pushed myself to the right, making sure to track the sound coming from behind me. Then, just as I looked down the next vent shaft, I caught a glimpse of something moving below. A flash of dark scales reflected the dim emergency lights. My breath caught again. I quickly pulled back, retreating just as something massive slammed against the duct above me. I barely suppressed a yelp. The creature was in a frenzy now. It was thrashing about, and I could hear the scientists' frightened voices growing quieter, fading into the chaos. I needed to block that out. It wouldn't help me. I had to keep moving and stay focused as I scanned the walls. If I could just find a way to get past the junction, I might be able to reach the maintenance exit I'd seen earlier. I knew it led outside, potentially to safety. But I had to be brave, to keep going. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the vents that rattled my very core. Another scream escaped my lips as I jerked to the left, ready to bolt when I noticed that a panel had come loose in the vent system, creating an opening just large enough for me to possibly squeeze through. That could be my ticket out. I hastily pried it open, working against time as I heard the creature's growls turn more aggressive, more desperate, right behind me. I pushed myself through the opening, wincing as the sharp edges scraped my arms. I could feel the heat of the creature's breath just a few feet away. It was getting closer. Just as I pulled my legs inside and braced myself for a drop, I heard another loud noise, something that sounded like a door being forced open, and my heart raced as I carefully maneuvered myself further. Was this the main corridor I remembered? If I could reach it, maybe I could find a way to escape the facility entirely. I landed softly on the floor below, every bit of my body screaming at me to move quickly, but then I heard a voice, a familiar one, echoing down the corridor. "Help! Over here! Anyone!" It was Tom. Relief mingled with dread. Could he be injured? In trouble? Guilt began gnawing at me, but I shook it off. My first priority had to be survival. Yet, as I turned to find him, the metallic clang of a door slamming shut echoed through the hall. My heart plummeted. The creature had found its way out too. That's when I saw it. A shadow loomed at the end of the corridor, and I knew I had to make a choice: help Tom or run before it was too late. I froze, a chill spreading through my body as the shadow grew larger. The creature's form became clearer. A mass of dark scales and jagged teeth, it moved with horrifying agility. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I couldn't ignore Tom's voice cutting through the panic. "Please, I can't hold it." His voice was frantic, laced with fear. I had to help him. He was my friend. But helping him could mean sacrificing myself. I darted past the open vent, peeking around the corner into the corridor. Tom was backed against the wall, eyes wide with terror. I swore I could see the faint glow of something behind him, a door leading to another lab, maybe. Then, from the chaos and the shadows, I noticed a flash of movement. The creature was just a few feet away now, its eyes locking onto Tom. "Tom!" I shouted, though the sound felt tiny against the walls of dread. "Get out of there!" He hesitated, glancing back at me. I nodded, trying to convey that he needed to run. That split second of eye contact seared into my mind. He knew what was at stake. With a quick shove, he pushed off the wall and bolted toward me. I could see the terror on his face, the knowledge that he might not escape. I took a step back, urging him on. We had to move. Just as he reached me, the creature lunged. Its claws slashed through the air, barely missing Tom's arm. I felt the rush of air as it passed, but adrenaline kicked in. "This way!" I yelled, taking off down the corridor, dragging Tom with me. We ran, the creature's growl echoing behind us. My heart hammered loudly, but focus pushed me on. I spotted a nearby door, an emergency exit, but it was locked. "No, no, no!" I shouted, pounding the metal door as panic crept in. "Can you unlock it?" Tom asked, glancing over his shoulder. I scanned the area and saw a fire axe mounted on the wall. It seemed like a risk, but it might buy us enough time. I yanked it loose and brought it down on the locking mechanism. The door shuddered, but it didn't budge. "Come on!" I screamed, swinging again, desperate now. The creature's growls intensified, reverberating through the hall. That sound forced me to swing harder, hoping it wouldn't break through before I made my escape. The next swing connected, and this time the door cracked open just enough for us to slip through. As we rushed outside, I looked back to see the creature still at the entrance, caught by the flickering emergency lights. My breath hitched in my throat. We were just outside, but we weren't in the clear yet. The darkness enveloped us like a shroud as I pulled the door shut. The growl seemed to fade into the distance, but I knew it wouldn't be long until it found us again. "What do we do now?" Tom asked, panting. His face was pale, eyes wide and desperate. I didn't have an answer. "We need to find another way out. There's got to be a service ladder nearby or something," I muttered, scanning the area for any signs of escape. That's when I saw a glimmer in the shadows, something metallic reflecting the fading emergency lights. My heart raced again as I realized what I had stumbled upon. It was equipment from the lab, but it looked like it had seen better days. I stepped closer, my throat tightening as dread settled in once more. I was about to find out just how dangerous this situation was getting. I moved cautiously toward the glimmering object. It was half buried under debris, the remnants of overturned equipment. As I got closer, I realized it was a small, portable generator. The label on it was faded, but it looked functional enough. It might give us power for the emergency lights, or even a radio. "Are you okay?" Tom breathed heavily behind me, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, I think I found something that might help." I tugged at the generator, wresting it completely free. It was heavy, but adrenaline coursing through me made it feel lighter. Just as I was about to turn it on, I heard a soft patter that sent my heart into my throat. "Tom, did you hear that?" I turned to look at him, his face pale like he'd seen a ghost. "Why, yeah, what was that?" Before I could respond, the sound grew louder, more defined. It was like footsteps, too light to be the creature, but too present to be the wind. I glanced over my shoulder, scanning the shadows for the source. Then a shape shifted in the darkness. My heart drummed faster, and I instinctively raised the generator in front of me as a makeshift weapon. "Who's there?" I called, my voice wavering. There was a tense silence before a figure emerged. It was another person, ragged and wild-looking, clothes dirty as if they had been living in the tunnels for days. My apprehension mixed with confusion. "What are you doing here?" "Help!" The stranger gasped, eyes darting. "It's coming. You have to." Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from behind the storage area we had just left. The creature had found its way outside. The roar reverberated off the walls, and every ounce of courage seemed to drain from me. "Run!" I yelled, instinctively grabbing Tom and pushing him toward a side corridor. The stranger hesitated but then followed, urgency shining in their eyes. That we hurried down the poorly lit passage, the generator still clutched in my arms. As we ran, I could hear the creature scrambling through the debris behind us, stalking its prey. Tom glanced back, panic written all over his face. "What if it catches up?" he cried. "We can't stop," I yelled, my mind racing. We needed to find a way to defend ourselves, to delay it somehow. My eyes darted around, looking for anything we could use. Then, I spotted a door at the end of the corridor marked Lab 3. It might be our only chance to get somewhere safe. "In there," I shouted, leading the way. We crashed through the door, slamming it shut behind us. My heart raced even faster now. Inside, the room was dark and cluttered with equipment. Monitor screens flickered, displaying static, but in the far corner, I saw what looked like an old metal cabinet. "Check that," I ordered Tom. "See if there's anything we can use to defend ourselves." He nodded, immediately running to the cabinet. Meanwhile, the room grew eerily silent. My senses heightened, the anticipation of the creature crashing through the door tangible in the air. Just as Tom ripped the cabinet open, the door rattled violently, sending tremors through my body. Now or never. We needed to act fast, or this moment could be our last. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever was about to come. "Tom, get ready," I whispered. Something was about to break through that door, and we had to be ready to face it. The door shuddered alarmingly under the force of claws trying to gain access, pulling my mind from the momentary fog of fear. I caught a glimpse of Tom rifling through the cabinet, adrenaline painting his features pale. "Hurry, we need something," I urged, my voice a whisper tainted with urgency. Time was slipping away, and the metal door strained with the weight of an impending disaster. Just then, the handle twisted and buckled, the door creaking ominously. I took a step back, gripping the generator tightly, unsure if it could be of any help against the creature now clawing to get at us. "I found a few things," Tom exclaimed, his voice shaky but determined. He held up a fire extinguisher and a few loose tools, a wrench and a rusty pipe. "Perfect," I shouted, hastily moving closer. I was uncertain how much time we had left. "We can use the extinguisher to blind it. If we can distract it long enough, we might make it out." The door shuddered violently again, this time splintering near the edges. My heart raced as I turned to Tom. "On my mark, we use the extinguisher. I'll hold it off the best I can." He nodded, fear evident, but the kind of resolve that said he understood what we had to do resonating in his eyes. The door trembled once more, and then it burst open, a shadowy mass colliding with the ground as the creature breached the threshold. The air filled with a mix of salt water and something foul, a rancid smell I was certain I'd never forget. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I kept my ground. "Now," I yelled, and Tom sprang into action, pointing the extinguisher directly at the creature. A burst of white foam erupted, enveloping the creature in a cloud of cold mist. It roared, a guttural sound echoing off the walls. I seized the moment, swinging the crowbar with all my strength. It connected with something solid, but the creature merely twisted, unfazed by my attempt to fight back. "Back! It's behind you," Tom shouted, desperately tugging me toward the other side of the room. We scrambled through the chaos, the foam starting to dissipate as the creature shook its head, trying to clear its vision. With my heart pounding louder than the crashing sounds, we darted toward a large window at the far end of the lab. "We need to break this," I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. I hurled the generator forward, and it smashed against the glass, cracking it. The impending flood gave me a moment's hope, but the creature's growl marked the end of our brief panic. Tom gripped the fire extinguisher. One more time. He aimed it again, squeezing the trigger, sending the white mist shooting toward the creature. It blinded the beast momentarily, and I took the chance to kick at the window again, now splintering further. Just as the creature regained its sight, I threw myself at the window with a primal yell. I crashed through the remnants of glass, letting an explosion of cold air rush over me. Tom was right beside me, forcing his way through the jagged edges, and as he tumbled through, I barely managed to pull him away from the danger. "You all right?" I gasped, grappling with my surroundings. We were outside, but the frigid water beckoned dangerously close, reminding us of the ocean's depth all around. The facility loomed menacingly above us, now just a temporary barrier between what we had disturbed and our uncertain freedom. That we stumbled backward, panting under the weight of our narrow escape, only to hear a roar erupt from inside, echoing through the water. My stomach sank. "Run! We can't stay here!" I yelled. We turned and ran along the metal walkways, splashes of water soaking our clothes. Behind us, the creature emerged from the darkness, its jagged silhouette against the flickering lights. Each step fueled my flight with a mix of panic and determination. That we sprinted toward an emergency boat, docked not too far away, the fear igniting adrenaline. I could feel the weight of the creature's presence even as it lingered back, coiled and waiting, a malevolent force that had tasted freedom. Diving into the boat, I fumbled with the keys. "Please start," I muttered, twisting the ignition. My hands trembled as I steered the engine to life. The roar of the motor mingled with the creature's growl, vibrating through our bones. Tom steadied himself, gripping the edge of the boat. "Let us go," he shouted as I slammed the throttle down, the boat surging forward. Gritting my teeth against the icy water splashing over us, I dared a glance back. The figure loomed larger, just outside the reach of the lights, dark and ominous. Watching us fleet, we sliced through the water as fast as the small craft would allow, the shoreline growing nearer, yet the image of what lurked below didn't fade. I couldn't shake the sensation that we hadn't just escaped. We had only disrupted a sleeping giant. As we approached the shore, a mix of relief and lingering dread washed over me. Had we truly escaped, or had we merely stirred things we weren't meant to? Once we reached solid ground, I took a deep breath, but before I could speak, I caught Tom's gaze. His expression mirrored my own confusion and concern. "What do we do now?" he whispered, fear folded within the unending questions. I didn't have an answer. I wanted to say it was over, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. The whispers I had heard before echoed again in my mind, a reminder that some depths are better left unexplored, and remaining questions lingered in the night air, unanswered and ominous. I could only hope that, for now, whatever we had awakened was retreating back into the abyss. But the ocean is patient, and its secrets often resurface at the most unexpected times.